this is Doug and Monster Puppet, and we're going to teach you about how to introduce a speaker. Now, the first thing, oh, very dramatic, thank you. So the first thing you're going to need is a couple things you need to know before you introduce them. Ideally the day before, or maybe even 2 days before. But you may not have that day. You might be told 15 minutes ahead of time, hey, you're going to have to introduce so-and-so, in which case you just got to roll with it. First thing, most important thing, learn how to pronounce their name and their title. So I once introduced somebody whose last name was Shsiao, and he said, oh, we have the same last name, Shaw. It's a good thing I asked, or I would not have known that is how it was pronounced. So learn how to pronounce their name, learn how to pronounce their title. Are they a doctor or professor? That's the most important thing. Everything else here is secondary to that. Number two, know why they're speaking. Let's say you were going to introduce me. Can I do it? Can I? No, there's no way I am letting you introduce me in any event. You guys all write to the university and say you want me to introduce Doug. Okay. So if Monster Pup was going to introduce me and he went on about a math paper or two that I wrote, about my pre-calculus book, the instructor's guide I wrote and all that, and my talk was about how to bake a good loaf of bread, then nobody in the audience is going to care about that stuff. They care more about that I can make a good sourdough. You know that? So you want to make sure you know why they're speaking, because that's going to what you're going to emphasize in your introduction. Three, biological. Doug wants the biology. So, biographical information about the speaker, where they went to school and all of that stuff. One thing you can do, and so I'm going to give this another number 4, is you can get a lot of this stuff just by asking the speaker. Some professional speakers or people who are in high levels of administration will have a list that they just hand you out. Here's my info. Okay, and we're going to tell you a little bit about what to do that. And it's going to be non-traditional advice later. But yeah, if you can get a list of things from the speaker when you introduce me. So what I ask is there any information you want me to include in your introduction? 90% of the time they'll say, oh, I don't know, just tell me something, right? But 10% of the time they'll say, yes, I need you to convey this, I need you to convey this, and I need you to convey that. All right. So get an info. So number 1, name and title. Number 2, know why they're speaking. Number 3, get biological information. You have the internet for that. Number 4, get a list of ideas from the speaker. And then finally, number 5, rehearse if you can. Or like you may not have time if you don't have a lot of notice. Right, but if you can, I'm not talking about hours, but go through it a couple of times. You might find that the phrase, my fond friend Fibbimiggets, and you realize that you can't introduce Joe Fibbimiggets as your fond friend because you can't say that phrase. Yeah, remember this if you ever meet a man named Fibbimiggets. What the heck was that? Okay, so now the actual speech. Number 1, your goal is to make people hyped up about hearing that person speak. That is secondary to everything else I talked about as far as the speaking, the stuff I'm going to talk about. Your job is to make sure people are excited and interested in what that speaker has to say. Okay, so you want to make it exciting. You want to emphasize the qualifications that you did in part 1, right? That's pre-speaking stuff. Here's where it comes into play. Yes. So for example, if I was going to be speaking about bread making, you would want to emphasize that I know what I'm talking about regarding bread making. And you can do this by listing the qualifications, or you can say something as simple as, you know, Doug gave me a loaf of bread once and it was delicious. Or a common one I've seen a lot is, I've heard this person speak before, and oh my God, you're in for a treat. This person is a master at speaking. You're going to learn X, Y, and Z. So you want to emphasize why this person is qualified to speak next. The other one, make it short. You'll notice we're failing at that in this video. Yes, but we're not introducing a speaker, so it's okay. Yeah, but it's still kind of padded. Okay, fine. But you want to make it short. The rule of thumb is never more than 3 minutes. I would say as short as you can do it and still do the job. And then the last thing you're going to say is their name. Okay, so the last words out of your mouth is, okay, give it up for Joe Fibbimiggets. Yay! So that's the last thing you say. Because if you say, you're going to love Joe Fibbimiggets. Now, he got his PhD at Oxford. You know, nobody, what? Right? So end with their name. Okay. Hey, Doug. Yes, Monster Puppet. What can go wrong? Okay. So here are some errors that people make. First of all, they take focus. I understand. Now, if you're an introvert, you don't care. If you're an extrovert like me, you tend to take focus a lot. Even with a puppet in his hand, he's trying to take the attention. Yes. So you have to remember, this is not about you. If people leave the speech thinking, boy, that Doug did a great job introducing a speaker, I haven't done my job, because I want ultimately people to remember the people who spoke. So don't go and do your stand-up monologue. Don't tell a lot of jokes. You're really trying to emphasize the speaker. Another error is people start doing a roast. You're not Don Rickles. Oh, topical reference there. You're no Lisa Lampanelli. She's not really topical that much either. Who's okay, insert your favorite insult comic here. Okay. Right, so you're not roasting them. You're not. They get annoyed. You don't want to do it. That's not, and you look like a jerk for doing it. Okay. Gentle teasing is okay if you kind of know the speaker, or if they're far, far above you. So when I introduced the university president once at a very important conference, all sorts of like state senators and people showed up. I actually teased the university president. It was okay because I'm such a peon compared to him that nobody was going to take offense. I was being naughty. And in retrospect, maybe I shouldn't have done it. Yeah, you shouldn't have done it. Okay. So don't roast them. You can tease them if you know them, if you think it's okay. Gently, though. This is not I've seen speakers do that. That's terrible. And then here's the one that's a little controversial. Stay tuned right now. That list I told you to get from them, if they have it, feel free to throw it away. Because sometimes if you're introducing, say somebody, is there something you want me to cover in your introduction? They'll give you like this biography, like, oh my God, all this stuff and all these things. And it's going to be such a boring introduction, such a boring introduction. So feel free to cut that. You know, just, you're only got 3 minutes or less, ideally less. So you might have to pick and choose from what they tell you. All right. If they say something like, be sure to include that I was a race car driver, it could be because they're going to tell a story about that later in the speech. So if they tell you to be sure to include 1 or 2 things, put them in. But if they give you a huge biography, feel free to just cut it. Okay, any last pieces of advice, Doug? Yeah. Practice in front of somebody and ask them what they think. Ooh, sage. Okay. But that's really it. So that's how to introduce a speaker. And thank you very much. And I hope your engagement goes well.